In Session 3, Roadmaps for Action, Scaling Shared Data Systems in East Asia and Beyond, we will focus on co-developing pathways to scale shared data platforms. This will include discussions to map national and regional demands and opportunities and identify critical areas for action. For this session, we are honored to have with us His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Kinanes, Minister of State for Homeland Security and Technology, joining us virtually from Maldives.
Yeah, good morning. Greetings from the Maldives. I would like to highlight, what we are doing in terms of technology in the Maldives, especially about data sharing in the Maldives. Now, His Excellency, the President of the Maldives, gives special emphasis on improving the technology in the Maldives, especially in the public and the private sector. So President has launched his vision, technology vision, very recently. So we call it Maldives 2.0 vision. So His Excellency, the President's vision for digital first nation. So it represents a coordinated national shift to prioritize digital solutions across the government, economic development, and also the public service delivery. So we are focusing on 8 main pillars in this vision, and one of the pillar is data sharing. Let me tell you all the pillars. The first one is digital identity pillar. Second one is open data sharing and governance. Third one is cyber security. Fourth one is modern legal framework. Fifth one is secure and sovereign digital infrastructure. Sixth is citizen-centric e-governance. Seventh is sectoral digital transformation. And then the last one is ICT ecosystem development and innovation. So these are the 8 pillars. Now, as you know, as I have highlighted just now, one important pillar is the data sharing. So if you look at the Maldives, Maldives is quite good when it comes to the infrastructure in the region. Say, for example, internet penetration rate is about 85% in the Maldives. If you take like the mobile subscribers, we have about 800,000 mobile subscribers in the Maldives. Our population is about 450,000, so almost everyone having 2 smartphones. Fiber optic, we have almost 100% coverage. For each household we have fiber optic cables. Subsea cable, we have 6 cables. So this statistics is very good when it comes to the infrastructure. But one of the problem that we always are having is that we have systems, but these systems are in silo fashion. So that's one problem that we are addressing. And the other problem, basically the interoperability issue. The other problem that we are addressing is that data sharing issue is there. So in order to address these issues, we are trying to improve the regulatory reform work in the Maldives to address the issues which I have highlighted. So we have a vision, as I told you, in making Maldives a different level in terms of technology. So we wanted to move Maldives into a digital first nation. So our approach will be digital first in all, in the work. Yeah, so basically that's the vision that I wanted to talk about. And then this vision highlights a lot about data sharing. So if I have some questions, I'll take some questions now.
Excellent. Thank you very much, State Minister, and appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Just to mention that in the room, we have many Korean partners that are working on issues related to data sharing. And we did highlight the work that we're doing with you around data sharing in the Maldives, and some of the particular use cases that we're working on in, for instance, the coral reef data sharing, along with early warning systems and other activities. And you've nicely outlined some of the broader enabling environment aspects, including digital ID, that can also be important tools that when you think about different applications of data sharing, that you can harness these digital technologies as well. Maybe two questions for you, and then we'll open up to the floor to see if there's any questions in the room. The first question is, as parts of the project with the World Bank, you're investing in a data sharing platform. So there's a technology piece, there's work happening around data classifications and interoperability as well. Can you speak to some of the effort that's happening more broadly within government around policies and regulations related to data sharing? Because that's another key piece that's come up in our discussions here, is what are the important policies and regulations that are needed to facilitate the technology and the technical aspects of data sharing. So could you share with us a little bit of what's happening within the Maldives government around the data sharing agenda?
Thank you so much. As I have highlighted, data sharing is an issue. And then we have the World Bank project, the DMAT project. The DMAT project addresses the issue that we wanted to, tackle, the issue of data sharing. Now, as you know, the DMAT project covers the data sharing issue, and then along with that, we have several initiatives coming up. One is to formulate a digital ID act, which under the World Bank project, that work is already started. We already have a digital ID system in the Maldives, and then 85% of our population is on the digital ID system. This system is called EFAS. EFAS is the name of the system, which is basically the digital ID system. We do have, when it comes to the regulatory and then policy reforms, we are working on that. One is that we have formulated the Data Protection and Privacy Act, which is already finished from our side. That's in the Attorney General Office. So after Attorney General Office reviewing the Data Protection and Privacy Bill, it will go to the Parliament for endorsement. So we hope this bill will be finalized, or rather endorsed, very soon. The other bill which is in the pipeline is the cybersecurity bill, which is also just about to go to the Parliament to endorsement. The other bill we are drafting right now is the artificial intelligence bill, or rather the AI bill, which we already have started. Along with the AI bill, we have started working on developing an AI master plan for the Maldives, which His Excellency the President has advised us to finish the master plan probably by end of next month. So when it comes to the work of data sharing, as I have talked to you, we are working on the World Bank project, and one of this component and data sharing comes with the environment component of it. So we are working. Not only we need the data sharing in the environment, but we want the whole of government approach when it comes to data sharing, because data sharing is an issue that we are facing in the Maldives. I'm sure this problem is faced by many other countries, so we are not an exception, but this is something that we want to address very quickly.
Excellent. I think these are also issues that have come up in the discussion here today too, a lot around how to unlock the potential for AI and what needs to happen as far as access to trusted data sources, but then also on the enabling environments, whether it's related to cyber security, as well as data privacy and protection issues and concerns as well. The second question that I have, and as you may know, State Minister, in the room we have a number of Korean agencies that work on implementation of data sharing platforms. And as you now shift as part of the World Bank project to implementation of the vision that you have for the shared data platform in the Maldives, could you share with us some of the challenges that you foresee with the implementation process?
Thank you. Yeah, so we do have challenges. One challenge about data sharing is privacy and the security concerns. So that's one big challenge we are having. So sharing data, especially the sensitive data across the government, and also like personal information, raise concerns about potential breaches or in misuse. So government organizations must ensure that data is protected and the privacy rights are respected. So that is why we are about to send a bill to the parliament on data protection data protection and privacy. The other one which I wanted to highlight is the cybersecurity threat, which can actually pose and then compromise the security of shared data. So these are some of the challenges that we are having. The other challenge that which I have highlighted in my opening remarks is the organization silos. In other words, systems are developing in silo fashions and organizations working in silos. So that has to change. So resistance to data sharing can stem from actual burden associated with the process. The third one which I wanted to highlight is the data interoperability. So meaning that systems are developed and then these systems are not talking to each other. So this interoperability issue is an issue that we wanted to tackle. And then, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, the 8 pillars, one of the 8 pillars is the interoperability issue. The fourth one is the legal and regulatory hurdles that we are facing. To address the issues, we already have started to formulate the legal framework, like developing some acts like Data Sharing, Data Protection and Privacy Act, Cybersecurity Act, AI Act. So, and also we are developing Digital ID Act as well. So all these acts are in the pipeline. The fifth problem is that lack of resource is also a problem within the government agencies. Insufficient resources, including IT infrastructure, which can actually hinder the data sharing initiatives. Limited staff expertise is also other issue that we are facing. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing in the Maldives when it comes to data sharing.
Very good. Thank you for outlining those issues. Now I'm going to open it up to the floor to see if anyone has questions for the State Minister before we conclude his intervention. Anyone have questions for the State Minister about what you've heard is happening in the context of the Maldives, some of the work that they're doing around AI, or on the enabling environment for data sharing?
Thank you, Minister. This is Jaewon from UNCTCN, implementation arm of the UNFCCC, hosted by UNEP. It was our great pleasure to hear the ongoing effort that you have put it in. But coming from the climate or resilient point of view, would it be okay if you can share how the bill that you're currently putting your effort will complement the climate crisis or increase the climate resilience? I would love to hear your thoughts around that. Thank you.
Answering your question, it will address the issue. Are you talking about the data sharing bill, or are you talking about the data protection?
Especially on the data protection side will be quite interesting to hear. Thank you.
Yes, it will address the climate change, because as you know, in the Maldives, the biggest issue is the climate issue, because in the Maldives we do have these small islands, 1,200 islands, and then we have a very low lying, about 3 feet above sea level. So the issue of climate change is an issue that we already have. So we are addressing the point of climate issue in the bill.
Very good. I think we have time for another question. If there's another question from the participants to the State Minister.
Good morning, Your Excellency, and thank you so much for sharing your time, but also we applaud the vision that the country is coming and illustrating how bold is, let's say, the impact of strengthening resilience through data sharing. Can you reflect a little bit of the economic impact that such kind of effort is bringing to the country?
Yeah, it will bring a huge impact. I'm sure it will have a cost saving, because as you know, these systems are working in silo fashion, and also resource is also duplicated, because technical resources, when it comes to infrastructure and also when it comes to human capital, there are a duplicate of resources because of this data sharing issue is there. So we can actually reduce the we can have common resource, and we can have common skilled technical people, rather than having duplicate resources and duplicate HR people around when it comes to the technical area. So it will have a cost saving if we can implement the data sharing platform, and also if we can have interoperable systems, whereby systems can talk to each other, and then which will allow more efficient, more effective work within the government agencies.
One moment, State Minister, just a quick follow-up. Yep, please.
Just a quick follow-up. With such kind of huge impact, this is the chance, because all our Korean partners are here in the room. So if you do have any ask from Korea, this is the time, Mr. Minister.
As I told you, these are some of the concerns which we have. Some of the challenges that we have. So if we can, if we can get a data sharing, a platform layer, the data sharing exchange layer. One is that, the other one is to have an interoperability, whereby we can get the systems talk to each other, because these systems are developed in different platforms in silo fashion. So that would be very good. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the cybersecurity issue, because we started the cybersecurity agency was established last year March. So we are actually at a very initial stage when it comes to cybersecurity. So if we can get some expertise, some advice in the area of cybersecurity, interoperability and data sharing, that would be good.
Well, thank you so much, State Minister, for your participation, for taking the time to join us this morning and to share the work that's underway in the Maldives. And we look forward to continuing to hear about the developments going forward. And as we're also present today with our Korean partners, we'll be sure to follow up with you as well as part of the World Bank DMAD projects to see where there can be opportunities for knowledge sharing and further engagement with the Korean partners as part of the process. But thank you very much again for your time this morning, and we really appreciate your participation. Okay, excellent. So you got a little bit of a sense from the government perspective in the Maldives on some of the things that are happening around data sharing. Now we're going to, as part of this session, give a bit of a deeper dive into the analytical work that has been underpinning some of the policy and regulatory reforms in the Maldives, as well as the investment that's taking place in establishing a data sharing platform in the country. So I'll turn it over to Aditya to explain in more detail the work that's been done to do both the assessment of the current state of play in the Maldives, and then how we've used that to then think about developing a roadmap, a set of investments, and a plan for implementation, which is just getting underway. So over to Aditya.
Before I get started, I just have to say I've been to a lot of workshops around the world. That's probably the best meal I've ever had at a workshop. So thank you very much to the staff. Thanks very much to my colleagues at the World Bank, in particular Zaki and his team, for organizing this wonderful meeting, the Korean Green Growth Trust Fund, and all of you for still being here. Because I'm also going to be doing a demo as part of my presentation, I'm going to be presenting from over here. But hopefully you can still see me in the presentation. So part of what we're trying to address when we're thinking about data is not just data collection in itself. We want to be able to think about the whole value chain. Everything from how data is being collected, to how that data is being published, to the uptake and usage of that data, and ultimately, what does that mean for impact? We want to go from data to information to knowledge to wisdom, and that's a long value chain, and there's a lot of steps that need to happen in that chain in order to make effective use of data. And as we've heard from others throughout the day today, there's still many challenges when it comes to data sharing. Everything from fragmented data ecosystems to inadequate infrastructure, regulatory and governance challenges. The incentive frameworks for why data should be shared are quite not understood, and we certainly heard that from both the Maldives and Sierra Leone. Funding and resource mobilization is always a problem. Understanding user demand, technology adaptation, data accuracy, cultural and social acceptance, and how to collaborate across different sectors. For this particular project, which we started back in July, we created a process where we first did a lot of research across existing platforms for data sharing, mostly platforms that were focused on climate, resilience, sustainability. We developed an assessment framework, which I'll go over as part of the presentation, which is about 50 questions. That assessment framework was basically built into this diagnostic tool that I'll give you a short demo on. And basically, through consultations that happened both before the diagnostic tool happened and after the roadmap was developed, we used all of that information to develop a roadmap that really defined the way forward for each of those countries. And then, as part of this process, also creating some guidelines for how each one of the countries could procure the next steps. So they always say, don't do a live demo at a workshop. We'll see how this goes. So this is the landing page. And the landing page gives you some background information around the purpose of this assessment tool. The way that the assessment framework is defined is that there's 6 different categories. So we're trying to think about data sharing not just from a technical aspect, but what are all of the enabling mechanisms that are required in order to make a data sharing program successful? And so we're looking at questions around governance, data availability, standards and quality, institutional capacity, digital infrastructure, technology and tools, and stakeholder engagement. It gives you some information around how the tool works, and then you can go into the questionnaire itself. The questionnaire is organized so that you can go into each of these different categories at different times. And we did this because the intent of the assessment tool is for one agency to be able to complete it in its entirety. But there might be different skill sets from those that are completing the questionnaire, so different people might want to fill out different sections of this questionnaire as they go through it. And it's very simple to use. It's all multiple choice. It's all on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is weakest and 5 is strongest. And it'll ask you questions like existence of data privacy laws, and you select an option. And then, and if you wanted to provide some more context around what the situation on that particular question is, there's space there to provide additional context. And if you wanted to upload any files or media files or anything else like that, you also have that option. And then you go next. It'll take you to the next question. Ooh, I guess I didn't select it. And so the next question is around data governance frameworks. So if we're looking at the different categories, and then I think the other thing important to show here is that because we're focusing this particular survey tool on climate resilience and action, we created a data framework that looked at what data should be in place to address this problem holistically. Now, when we're looking at things around climate, it's not just about air quality or ocean variability and things like that. You also have to understand things around population, different types of demographics, where building infrastructure is, because that's where all the impact is also then going to occur. And so we created a data framework that was looking at atmospheric data, oceanographic data, terrestrial, hydrologic, health, disaster, socioeconomic, biological, and policy. In this section, all of the respondents across the different agencies, or even within one agency, would then be able to then highlight what data that they already had in place. And as part of our assessment, we would then be able to see what kind of data is being collected across agencies. And often what you would find is that there was a lot of overlap, which then also spoke to the fact that roles and responsibilities and custodianship around different data were not well defined across the government. So I won't go through all of these questions. I think you get a sense of what the tool is trying to do. There's about 48 different questions in the assessment tool. And again, it's trying to look at all of this very holistically. Now, once someone finishes the survey tool, you get a summary of all the different answers. And the way that this was actually put into practice is that each one of the agencies basically brought all of the staff together, and they collaboratively answered all of the questions. And then you have a chance to review all of the answers before you hit submit. Once you do hit submit, you get a report that basically indicates where you are on this scale. And where you have a score of less than 2.5, you're kind of in that range where you're early stage. 3, there's good progress that's being made. And anything above that, you're more in an advanced state. It'll give you a bit of a narrative around what that particular score means for your agency, gives you a couple of graphs in terms of what the score has been across the different 6 categories, and then it'll give you a score and recommendation for each of the different categories. What we heard as we were going through this process, we did try to do some co-design with both the Maldives and Sierra Leone in the development of this tool. And some of the feedback that we got is that they wanted to be able to get their own report out of the tool, one where they could add their own logo to make it official, so that they can also use this report as a way to drive their own kind of internal change processes, but then also use it for advocacy. And so once that's been done, you will get a report, everything's working. And this is something that all of the agencies can have for themselves and be able to use for their own advocacy. Lastly, on the assessment side of things, now all the agencies have completed the reports, completed the assessment. And so what you can do is be able to go in and look at all of the different answers for all of the different agencies. You can get all of the scores for all of the questions at an aggregate level. As agencies, and then so this is the agency score comparison here. And then as this survey is gone out to all of the agencies, you're able to then also monitor their progress. So you can see how much of each category has been completed by each agency. So, and then there's other tools for user management and so forth that I'm not going to go over right now. But that's a really quick snapshot of the assessment tool. I think in terms of its application in both countries, it was received very well in terms of its user-friendliness, its intuitiveness. We set up a help desk in case there was any questions as users went through this tool. We didn't receive any help requests. So from that perspective, we're very happy with how the tool was used in practice. And I think in terms of the questions that are being asked as part of the survey, it's got broad applicability. So I'm going to pause there just on the diagnostic tool part of it and just see if there's any questions from anyone around the tool itself. I can also just continue. My company is being contracted by the World Bank, but the way that the tool is being developed right now, it's going to be institutionalized within the World Bank through the ITS department there, so that it's going to be sustainable across the different World Bank teams. But perhaps there's something more that you want to say to that?
I think, Aditya, you pretty much summarized the main aspect. The one thing that's maybe just to mention also, though, the idea with the diagnostic tool is that it will be something that we'll be able to replicate in other countries, and that there is a core set of 50 questions. But we've been discussing also with Aditya, and we've had requests from countries who want to do, say, a deeper dive in a specific sector like agriculture, where they want to try to figure out what are some of the challenges or issues that they're facing among their agencies around data sharing in specific sectors, and that you can customize also the diagnostic tool to do a deeper dive in a specific sector if that's happens to be the need. So yeah, it's going to be something that we'll be able to deploy in multiple countries going forward.
Yeah, and I think also it's important to mention that in terms of the process for both countries, we did one workshop before we started doing anything with the diagnostic tool as a way to then introduce all of the stakeholders about what the objectives of the overall program were, but then also to have bilateral meetings with each of the participating agencies. And that was a good way for us to, one, kind of build trust and relationships with all the different agencies, but then also understand specifically what some of the needs, challenges, and opportunities were, and then be able to get more quantitative data coming out of the diagnostic tool itself. And then after we got the diagnostic tool results, all of that information was then used to then design the roadmap, which I'll go over here in a minute. But generally speaking, the scoring framework is set up so that a score of 1 to 2 is early stage with critical gaps. Score 3 is foundational with opportunities for strengthening. And if you're at a 4 or 5 level, that's more advanced and functioning well. And then some bullet points in terms of how to contextualize that scoring. So for both the Maldives and Sierra Leone, their scores came out to be pretty comparable. But what you see highlighted in the 6 categories below is that there were some differences in terms of which categories were stronger than others. And as the state minister mentioned, in the Maldives, there is a strong digital infrastructure there with strong internet penetration and connectivity. In both countries, there was good availability of the data, some standards and some policies that were also being put into place. But what we also saw in both countries is that there was a lot of overlap across different agencies in terms of the sources of the data. And so that either means that there's different sources that are being used, or each of the agencies are using the same source, or that custodianship and roles and responsibilities are not well defined across the agencies, which that was something that was validated in further discussions with each of the different agencies. In Sierra Leone, Stakeholder engagement was also very strong. One of the things that I came away from Sierra Leone really admiring is that there was a really strong spirit of collaboration across agencies. People really wanted to see a program move forward, understood the importance of data sharing. There was always, some discussions around what are the incentive frameworks that need to be put into place. Is there a way that we can think about how to sell data? And things like that often come up in these discussions, but everyone was motivated to move forward with a data sharing program there. And as part of the consultations, what we also wanted to define were what are the prioritized use cases. And so as part of what we're doing in the roadmap exercise, we're really arguing that you don't want to try to solve for everything. Focus on 1, 2, or 3 use cases that are high impact, that are priority, that are going to make a lot of difference. And so in the Maldives, as Seth mentioned earlier, looking at monitoring of coral reefs and marine ecosystems is a priority use case because it has so much dependence on the well-being of the Maldives. Coastal erosion, again, they're all atoll islands, which means they're only about 1 meter above seawater. So looking at coastal erosion is a big priority. And then they also have a lot of environmental impact assessment data, which are often held by consulting firms. And so trying to come up with a system that makes that data more open and standardized was another priority for the Maldives. In Sierra Leone, one of the main use cases that they're looking at there is early warning systems. Natural disasters is a big issue in Sierra Leone, especially around landslides, fire, and flooding. Agricultural productivity and food security was the second use case, and then looking at water resource management. So the way that we designed the roadmap and the implementation approach was to really look at four pillars: the technology, the platform development, governance, capacity development, and stakeholder engagement. The approach that we're suggesting is that when we're looking at a data sharing program, it should be thought of, we should design it in a way where it's decentralized and federated, and so it's such that agencies are custodians of their own data. We want each of the agencies to be able to be the custodians because then they can manage and maintain that data in the long term without it being centralized into any one authority. And it can all be powered by APIs so that you can understand how that data is being taken up and used as well. Focus on specific use cases, training and capacity development on data governance and use, and the development of use cases into demonstration. So looking at the demonstration of use cases as a way to build further value around this program. I'll just quickly go over just some of the key activities that have been defined in the roadmap. So looking at platform development, this is looking at building out the technical architecture and the data sharing platform itself, integrating key data sets that are specific to the use cases that have been prioritized, implementing different data access protocols, and creating user-friendly tools. When we're looking at governance, and this is all for the Maldives, developing a national data sharing policy. That's something that the state minister had mentioned earlier. Strengthening the legal and regulatory framework. Establishing a governance structure such that data stewardship roles and interagency coordination bodies are well understood. And then building the capacity of government officials and technical staff. On capacity development, looking at designing and delivering tailored training programs, creating more mentorship and knowledge sharing programs, educational resources, and facilitating peer-to-peer learning. And then with stakeholder engagement, conducting regular consultations and workshops, actively involving stakeholders in the co-design process, creating targeted communication and advocacy, and engaging with regional initiatives. Stakeholder engagement, to me, just based on a number of programs that we've been involved in, is one of the most critical pieces that need to happen, but often one of the pieces that doesn't happen to the extent that it should be. You really have to get all the different agencies together consistently in a way that really builds trust and relationship and collaboration opportunities across government, and be able to create a formalized structure that happens on a fairly consistent cadence. So for the Maldives, we created a 2-year roadmap. The 4 pillars that I was speaking to are all being done in parallel as part of that roadmap. And there's a sequence to it where you're going from initial setup and stakeholder engagement to parallel development and policy drafting to expanding the platform and the governance structures, and then finally being able to pilot use cases. That's where you want to end up by the end of year 1. In year 2, you're further expanding the platform and the actual implementations of the policies that are being drafted, scaling the platform and the use case replication, further evaluating and doing continuous improvements based on the experience that has happened up until then, and then also thinking about the sustainability and long-term planning. One thing that we heard from both countries, in particular from Sierra Leone, is that when projects like this do get funded, they often get funded for 2 to 3 years. The money runs out, and then the program usually dies. And so we have to kind of think about what is the longer-term sustainable financing model that will keep these programs running in the long term. And so, yeah, I will just say that this was an amazing experience. I think all of the stakeholders from both countries were very committed to this process. They very much understood the need and the value of having a data sharing program in place. There was many discussions around what the challenges were and why certain things were not being done because they didn't have access to the data that they needed. And again, I think the collaboration opportunity, the spirit of collaboration across both countries really puts them in a good position to move forward with such a program, because it's often human interoperability that becomes one of the biggest challenges. If you can get over that by people really wanting to come together and work on something, then you're really making good progress. And it was a great experience being able to be in both countries to discuss this with them. Just so you can see, this is in Sierra Leone. This is the meteorology department right there. And so, I think there was some discussion earlier on today about what does readiness for a country look like for developing a data sharing program. My response to that would be, whenever you go to any country, and Sierra Leone is probably one of the least developed countries, there's always things that are already working. Water is running, electricity is running, systems are working. They might not be where they should be, but you can always make progress as long as you're able to define where you are and where you want to be. And that's, I think, part of the reason why this program is so important, because it really lays out that sort of mapping and understanding of how to move forward and what the current situation is and what you can do to move the program forward. In the Maldives, we had about 14 agencies that we were working with, which are all listed here. In Sierra Leone, we had about 11 that are listed here. So with that, thank you.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I'm Daha Park from Save the Children Korea. So I'm wondering, is this like a platform only open to the government level of developing countries, or also open for NGOs and other stakeholders as well? So
Yeah, so they initially, in the context of the plans in the Maldives, is that at least the data that would be used is going to be public data to start, and then because there was discussion whether or not the platform could also bring in private sector data, but we thought we start first with public sector data, sharing across government, and then expand it and make it publicly available. So the intent is for the platform to eventually be open, but in the short term, focus on the data sharing cross government and then begin to open it up over time. I think there are some interesting lessons. Maybe one of the earlier presentations today showed in Korea how data, like the open data initiative, was then leading to other actors accessing the data, and quite a few of those were outside of government. So I think it's also something to reflect on whether the approach of starting just with public sector to get things going is the right one, or should you try to open up sooner so that you can demonstrate more demand and maybe entice other actors to engage with the data that may even move more quickly than governments may choose to do so. So I think that's a bit of something maybe to keep in mind as we move forward in the Maldives in particular.
Okay.
All good.
Thank you very much.